Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1173, the Gingerbread Tiny House Add-ons, and you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. This is an add-ons set, so it is designed to go with our tiny house pop-up to convert it into a gingerbread house. I took inspiration from the card that is shown on the packaging for this die set. Now the packaging card that I'm showing here is actually pretty small. It's only a 4 1/4 inch square, so you can fit the tiny house in a pretty small card. For today's card, I'm going to go a little bigger, so I'm going to make a 5 by 5 square card, but very much kind of copying the styling of that packaging card. I am posting this video actually on a designer challenge day, and our theme this month is sun or snow, so I added a couple little snowmen to the scene as well. I started by creating my card, 10 inches by 5 inches on the cardstock, scored in the middle for folding, and then to that I added some panels of pattern paper from my stash. And then to create a snowy base for my gingerbread house, I added panels of white cardstock. Okay, starting with the pieces that I'm cutting out of the tiny house pop-up die set. I need the house itself, which cuts the house and the roof support. I'm doing that out of white cardstock, and then the chimney out of the tiny house set, also out of white cardstock. The roof die in the tiny house set has an optional stamp feature, but I did not use the stamp feature. I just cut it out of a gingerbread color. For the window frames and door, I have ginger color cardstock with score tape on the back so that those will become stickers. And then on the door, there is an optional stencil feature. So I'm using a white gel pen to stencil in the doorknob as well as the panels. Then I just use a pokey tool to kind of release the paper from the dies so that the paper will stay on there as a sticker. Now I'm switching die sets over to the Gingerbread Tiny House Add-ons, and I'm first going to cut 2 layers of ginger cardstock with the panels for the sides of the house as well as the chimney. Then I switch to white cardstock to cut the lattice for the roof, and I need to cut that twice. There's a die that cuts the frosting backer for the windows and a rectangle for the door. I only need 1 rectangle, but I need the window set twice. Okay, I am ready to start putting this house together. So for the house itself, there are score lines that all fold away from you. So I'm folding as a mountain fold on each of those score lines next to the panels of the house as well as the little tab out on the side. Then there are 2 tabs on the bottom of the house, and again, those both fold to the back. So everything folds away from you. Then you can flatten everything back out again so that you can see the panels easily. So the concept here is that the ginger panels that fit the tiny house leave the white showing so that it appears to be scalloped frosting piping around all of the edges of the house. So same thing with the chimney. I'm going to work the tapered tab at the bottom in both directions, and then I'm going to add that ginger panel to both sides of the chimney. The glue I'm using is LINECO neutral pH adhesive. I put it in our fine tip bottle, and we do sell those items on our website. Since I am making a side fold card, the front of the house is this leftmost panel. So for that one, I'm going to add the rectangle that backs the door. And then my door and door frame that were cut out of the tiny house die set will fit on that rectangle with just a little white showing around the outside to appear as though it were put on with frosting. And that's kind of how the windows work as well. You put the white one down, which is a little bit wider than the windows that come in the tiny house, so that when you put the tiny house windows on, it will look like you have actually mounted those window frames on with frosting. For the roof of the tiny house, I just want to fold that right up the middle, and then to that I'm going to glue on the 2 lattice pieces. And I'm realizing that I've been using the term frosting when maybe I should be saying icing, but see, I grew up in Oregon, which is on the West Coast, and we always called it frosting. But then now I'm wondering if maybe it should be piping. And I think the most important way to settle this matter is for you to leave a comment saying whether it should be frosting, icing, or piping. I have white glitter paper with score tape on the back to cut the die that cuts the 9 little circle candies. And then to make those different colors, I'm just going to use Copic alcohol markers to color them. I've chosen 6 different colors. And since I use the score tape, those are stickers, so I can pick them up and put them onto the lattice work of the roof. Now, if you didn't have white glitter paper and alcohol markers, you could certainly just use regular scraps of cardstock and then just use like a glitter pen over the top. And I realized that I wanted to put the chimney onto the roof before I finished the candies so that I could actually add a candy over the tab that's used to attach the chimney to the roof. And then I just finished adding all the candies to the roof. I forgot to cut hearts out of the tiny house die set, but there is a die that will cut 4 small hearts, and I've added those to the windows and the middle of the door. And then back to the Gingerbread Tiny House Add-ons to make peppermint candies. So there is a circle that I cut out of white, and then there is a little pinwheel overlay to make it look like a peppermint candy. And of course that can be done in whatever color you want. I'm going to put the red peppermint candy on the front of the house and the green peppermint candy on the back of the house. And the rest of the decorating of the house I will do after I've assembled it. So I'm going to use a strong adhesive in the tapered tab at the end of the house. And I'm just going to spread that out a little bit with my fingers so I get good coverage everywhere. And then if I fold in one half of the house and then the other half into the exposed adhesive, it's really easy to get a good connection as well as make sure that it's straight. And then just press the house down in the other direction as well. For the roof support, there are little triangle-shaped tabs out on the sides, and I like to work the fold lines for those tabs in both directions really well. And then those are the shape of the peaks of the roof of the house. So that piece will span across the house from peak to peak. And for the one on the right, I'm going to add the adhesive behind the triangle tab. And then in the flat position, I'm going to go in and get that lined up with the peak of the house roof right along that edge so that the point of the triangle is at the point of the house. And then you'll just notice that the other triangle tab will line up perfectly with the other roof peak in the closed position. And then after connecting the roof support to the tiny house using the triangle tabs, then it's the long tabs that get folded down to attach the roof itself. So they fold in opposite directions. I like to fold the one closest to the front of the house to the right and the one closest to the back of the house to the left. Collapse the house down so that the bottom tabs are over the top of each other. They should not be side by side. So if you've got it collapsed this way, just reverse it. The easiest way to attach the roof to these tabs is just to add the adhesive to one of them. I like to start with the one on the right, add my strong adhesive, then I open up the roof and I want the fold line next to the tab to be right in the fold line of the roof. And I'm just centering it in there so that an equal amount of roof is going to hang over the front and the back of the house. And there that tab is attached. And then to finish out, I just need some adhesive on this tab. And then just making sure that the fold of the tab is right in the fold of the roof, I can close the roof down and into the exposed adhesive. This edge of the tabs is going to go right in the fold of the card, and it can go anywhere along the fold as long as the house stays in the card in the closed position. So I'm going to put it pretty high up in the card. That will leave me a little bit of room on the left-hand side to add my street lantern. The house is going to open up the best if the entire base tab is coated with adhesive. So I'm going to spread that out with my fingers so that I have good coverage everywhere. And then I'm going to just make sure that that edge is right in the fold of the card. I'm looking at the top of the house to make sure it stays in the card, and I'm pressing down that bottom tab. And just a quick check that I kept it on the right side, which I did. It's not crossing the fold. And you can see there's the back tab that is already attached. All right, now I'm going to add my adhesive to the top of the other tab. And again, I want good coverage on that tab. I want the glue everywhere, so I'm going to just spread it out with my fingers a little bit so that I make sure everything is coated with adhesive. Then I keep the house nice and flat on the right side of the card and close the left side into that exposed adhesive. I am notoriously impatient with glue, but I am trying to do better about making sure I give it enough time to set up. I'm very careful as I open it the first time, just kind of giving a little help and making sure that the tab doesn't pop off of there. Okay, so the house is popping up nicely, but most likely if I were to try to close it, the roof would just hit against the card and not exactly know what to do. So the best way to handle that is to add a little downward curve to the front right and back left corners of the roof so that it understands that as it hits the card, it needs to slide down into the closed position. There are 2 dies in the set that layer together to make a candy cane. They'll actually make mirror image candy canes. So I've cut the full cane out of white and then the overlays out of red. Those can obviously go anywhere you like. Now it's just a matter of decorating the gingerbread house. I decided to put the candy canes on the front of the house. There is a built-in stencil feature on the die for the gingerbread man, so I'm going to use a white gel pen to add the frosting, icing, piping to the gingerbread man. And I used score tape on the back of that ginger cardstock so that that would be a sticker that I could add to another one, just because I think it looks best when it's double thick. So it has a little thickness of an actual cookie. Then I just brush a little ink around the outside and glue that to the side of the house. In addition to the die that cuts the round candies, there's also a couple dies to cut gumdrops, and I did that same trick with the white glitter paper and the Copic markers to color them. Then I used round candies to make a path out the front door. One thing that looks kind of cool is to add a little extender piece out the back of the house, and I do that by just using the side panel of the house and just cutting a thin strip. And then I just glue that to the back of the house so that it's extending out along the ground. And then to that can go pretty much anything. I've decided to use our street lantern pop-up die set, which I've cut out of gingerbread colors and then decorated it with some candies. There is an assembly video on the street lantern if you like that look, so you could watch that video. I did have to shorten the lantern so that it would fit in the card. And then it's important that anything you add to an extender piece is far enough out that it will not impede the roof of the house from closing. So see here, the roof has to be able to clear that lantern to be able to slide closed. And actually that lantern was just weighty enough that I thought doubling the little extender piece would make it a little bit more solid, and it did. So just like how the street lantern needs to be far enough out not to impede the roof on the left-hand side, any embellishment on the right-hand side has the same consideration. You have to make sure that it's placed far enough out that it will not impede the house from closing. The wreath and bow are pieces that come out of the street lantern die set, but then the candy cane, the panels, and the gumdrops came out of the Gingerbread Tiny House Add-ons. I grabbed the 2 circle dies out of our surprise ball pop-up because they seem to be nice size circles to make a little snowman. And then I'm going to do some stenciling. So first I'm using the candies die, 2 of the circles, to be able to add buttons to the front of the snowman. And then I'm going to use the gingerbread man to stencil eyes and a mouth. I definitely didn't get perfect spacing on the mouth, but I just embraced it, because snowmen are imperfect. And then to fashion a little scarf for the snowman, I used a candy cane. So I used the curved part as the tail and then a straight part across the neck. Looking around for something small for stick arms, I settled on the bird feet from our feathered animals die set and just cut it into 2 pieces and used them as the stick arms. I used a colored pencil for rosy cheeks, and then for the carrot nose, just a hand-cut little triangle of orange cardstock. And then I just attached my finished snowman to the lantern and added another peppermint candy. One of our most popular word dies is our Merry Christmas, and so we've just released a Merry Christmas shadow to fit it. So in keeping with the gingerbread theme, I cut both pieces out of ginger, layered them together, and then just used a white gel pen to trace around the word to give it that look of a gingerbread cookie. And then to fashion a front for this card, I just repeated elements. So the same papers, snowman, gumdrops, gingerbread man, and then I just cut that to be a little bit smaller than the front of the card. So as for envelope size, this is a 5x5 square card, so it will actually fit in a 5x7 A7 envelope if you wanted to mail it and not have to use extra postage. You'd have to check the weight on it, of course, though, because it does have a lot of layers. So obviously by combining with the tiny house pop-up, you can make an adorable pop-up gingerbread house, but also be looking to how you can use those pieces flat. So like on the packaging card, I actually just made a flat version of the gingerbread house for the front of the card. And I love to end assembly videos with a couple ideas by our very talented international design team. I love this card by Fran where she's got a gingerbread house, but then also the pop-up Mrs. Claus and all the little tiny gnomes. I love how Lois has put the gingerbread house in a Slim Flaps and Frames card and then also incorporated a tiny gingerbread tree. And then another card by Fran, this time with gumdrop trees in the background and a chain of little gingerbread cookies. The Gingerbread Tiny House Add-ons die set is available now at a lot of your favorite local and online retailers, as well as from our website, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.